I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back up, so that's all you can really say.
They called it playoff physical, but it felt like something else. Possessions didn't just get contested, they got splintered. The story wasn't one clean arc, it was a sequence of small collisions that kept changing the outcome by inches. And in a series where inches mattered, the identity of both teams started to sharpen under pressure. Indiana answered the first bell like a team with nothing to lose and a lot to prove. Vegas answered the second like a champion with a long memory. Somewhere in the crossfire, the whistle became part of the narrative, not just the background noise. That's where this story lives, between what the box score can't show and what the body remembers.
Watch how the third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. Asia Wilson creams Lexie Hall like she did 5 times in game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. Asia Wilson doesn't like Lexie Hall. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexie Hall gets called for a foul.
Game 1 wasn't an upset so much as a recalibration. Indiana didn't sneak through a side door. They walked right down the center aisle and took a seat on the stage. The spacing looked clean, the reads looked calm, and the shot selection had that patient kind of menace. No panic, no hurry, just trust in the work. You could feel Vegas realizing in real time that the challenge wasn't a surprise, it was a problem. What made it sting was the composure. The defense kept angles tight, closed air without hacking, and turned transitions into choices instead of chaos. If you're the defending champions, you expect pressure to crack the newcomer's nerve. Instead, the fever rode the noise like a wave. One big night from a star scorer lit the fuse, but the execution around her was the oxygen. You don't get a 16-point road win by accident. You get it by starving the other side of rhythm.
Asia Wilson's just a big bully. Look at this. Throws Lexie Hall on the ground. Everything she does is illegal. Look at this one. A moving screen, and then pushes Lexie Hall. Do you think they ever call a foul on Asia Wilson?
Then came the course correction. Game 2 replaced tempo with stoppage. The floor turned into a maze of shoulders, forearms, and planted feet. Every third possession ended at the stripe. It wasn't just physical, it was disjointed by design. And when you trade flow for fragment, the team that thrives on resets starts to look inevitable. Indiana's cuts met chests. Their screens met collisions. The pace slowed to the kind of crawl that frays a young team's timing. Quick technical note for everyone watching. When the whistle volume spikes, advantage shifts to the roster, comfortable operating from static, sideline out, baseline out, extended dead ball matchups. If you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. It tells the algorithm you want high signal analysis, not fluffy recaps. Like the video if you've learned something new already. And drop a comment. Tell me which possession changed your mind about the series. Your interaction trains the recommendation engine to surface deeper clips for you, and it helps this channel grow out of the tiny but mighty phase. Back to the court. Indiana tried to sprint through glue, but glue won the quarter.
And Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish.
Gainbridge Fieldhouse doesn't just get loud, it gets personal. The crowd doesn't wait for highlights, they manufacture them with pressure. Back home, Indiana fed on that current, and for a stretch, it looked like the noise might bend the line back. The problem with a series, though, is that it remembers. The same collisions that dampened pace in Game 2 followed them into Game 3, only now the stakes had multiplied. Enter the stubborn counterpunch, perimeter shooting against loaded paint. Lexie Hull, taped, sore, plainly operating in a pain window, stepped into rhythm threes as if the floor weren't tilted. 5 of them, each one saying, "You can hit me, but you can't shut this down." That's the kind of defiance that changes a bench's posture. It didn't rewrite the scoreboard by itself, but it told the room who was still here to fight.
In the WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up, but you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know A'ja Wilson only receives fouls.
There's gravity in the game, and then there's award gravity. When a player receives the crown mid-series, the whole arena tilts. Every touch becomes narrative. Every non-call becomes a referendum. Defenders overcorrect. Officials get microscopically analyzed. It's not that the ball goes in because of a trophy. It's that the context around each shot grows teeth. For Indiana, this meant guarding the paint against an MVP aura without conceding the corners. Help can't be late, but it also can't be early. Show too soon, and the kickout becomes a rhythm shot. Show too late, and you're reaching at air. That half step of uncertainty is where champions live. It's also where a young team either learns fast or gets buried under the moment.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor, and that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
Vegas's cleanest adjustment after the opener wasn't a haymaker. It was a denial of oxygen. They crowded the first dribble on Kelsey Mitchell and turned off-ball movement into a wrestling match at legal limits. Face guarding stole the easy catches. Switch early principles erased the first red. By the time the Fever Guard met the ball with advantage, the clock had already shaved off options. It's not about stopping a scorer, it's about starving her of early rhythm. This is the possession-level math that wins series. Take away the primary, force the second option to operate on the wrong side of the timeline, and dare the third to do calculus in traffic. Indiana countered with wide pin downs, ghost screens, and deeper initiation to stretch the point of attack. Some of it worked, some of it drowned in contact. That's what a contested playoff environment does. It makes good ideas prove they're great in under 6 seconds.
Yeah, Lexie, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. A lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
Aaliyah Boston spent the series in the trenches where cameras only catch half of it. The rebounding numbers look neat. The job did not. She boxed out shadows, 8 elbows that don't count as elbows, and still found ways to tip possessions back into Indiana's hands. That's interior stewardship, holding the middle ground so your guards can keep negotiating at the edges. Odyssey Sims supplied the argument for pace even when pace was illegal. Her drive said, "We refuse to be told to stand still." Those floaters and pull-ups weren't just points, they were mood changes. Every time Indiana looked 5 whistles deep into a run that never got to breathe, Sims cracked a lane and reintroduced momentum into the building. In a stop-start series, those moments are oxygen tanks.
This is what happened. They cut it to 8 and they get 4 fouls in a row. That was not a foul. That was not a foul. This is crazy. 4 consecutive fouls. So from 8, it goes to 13 really quick, and the rest was history. It looks like Howard got hit in the arm by 2 players. They don't call foul. It was a shot clock. But the rest of the game were just a whole bunch of fouls being called, people flying.
As the series stretched to its most fragile minutes, the margins turned human. Overtime came calling, and with it the kind of stress that steals hydration and replaces it with static. Kelsey Mitchell's body hit a wall, seizing cramps, that scary stiffness that makes a scorer look like they're moving underwater. She left, got seen, got fluids, and later explained the whole thing as a rare overexertion reaction. The message afterward was simple: She's okay. The signal during the game was louder. Even stars have limits. What makes this moment stick isn't the pain, it's the timing. The team that needed her gravity most watched it flicker, and still they pushed. That's the heartbeat you build a future on. You don't measure it in career highs. You measure it in how many players are still pointing to the fight when the plan falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you look at it. It looks, honestly, by some of the fouls and the way it was going, it looks like we were almost too physical, but yet at the same time, I feel like we have to be able to get that on the other end. I think, sometimes when you just look at the game as a whole, when you look at the way that it works, sometimes you manipulate it into different ways and you have smaller matchups. So, I mean, I just don't think it's really possible all the time for some of those smaller matchups to really do such a clean job of that. But hey, I'm here to hoop, so none of my business.
People talk about home court advantage like it's a soft cushion. In Indy, it's more like an amplifier with the feedback turned up. Every bump sounds louder, every no call echoes longer. Officials are human. 17,000 opinions at once will make anyone double-check their instincts. That's not conspiracy, it's psychology. And for a team that values movement freedom, the crowd becomes a third assistant coach pointing at the lanes. The effect isn't just on the whistle, it's on the lungs. Visiting teams take shorter breaths in loud buildings. Huddles get tighter. Communication drops by a syllable, which is enough to miss a coverage call. Indiana learned how to use that noise like rocket fuel. Even when the scoreboard didn't smile, the identity hardened. Keep cutting, keep rising, keep shooting through the bruise.
T-Hall kept her out of that space as much as she would have wanted to. She did end up with 19 points.
7-0. Ace's run has been stopped. Sims in.
Strip away the parade music and look at the tape, and you see two truths. 1. The champs leaned on experience, whistle management, and a tempo they could govern. 2. The challengers didn't blink. They chased down long rebounds, shot through contact, and kept their body language clean. That matters in a league where perception travels fast. You can lose a series and still win a reputation that pays off next spring. And about the officiating debate, no one solved it here, but 40-plus whistles in a showcase game will always inflame the conversation. Freedom of movement isn't just a phrase, it's the product. If the league wants more eyes, it has to protect pace without letting the game devolve into shoves. This series drew the line in chalk. Next season, they'll be asked to trace it in ink.
Purcell and Young. Sims over. Asia Wilson, she had to put some extra arc on that.
Vegas moves on. Indiana moves forward. The difference is subtle but real. Moving on is about the bracket. Moving forward is about the build. The Fever discovered that they can shake a fortress, shoot through noise, and hold their core steady when the map turns hostile. The next time they step into a room this loud, they won't be asking for a seat. They'll be setting the table. If you want more breakdowns that blend on-court tactics with off-court context, subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you actually see the next drop when it lands. Like the video if the analysis helped you see the series differently, and leave a comment with the single possession you think swung momentum the most. Your engagement doesn't just support the channel, it sharpens what we dig into next. See you in the next one.